Welcome to Under Oath. I got to tell you, I love the first season of this on Netflix. It was called One Piece. Now season 2 is starting, and we have Camrus Johnson, who plays Mr.5. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm so good, man. How are you doing?
I got to tell you, I loved you in Batwoman, and I was like, hold on, I recognize this dude.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
How does that happen? You're like, oh, okay. You know, I'm going to lean into this comic book genre hard now.
You know what I'm saying? I feel honored, man. The fact that I got to play a superhero in a comic book show and then play a supervillain in a manga show, it's just like the nerd in me, which is a lot of me, is screaming with joy every single day.
Now, I write comic books. I get the benefit. I'm an attorney, but I write comic books, and I've done 20 years at Comic-Con in San Diego.
Really?
Now, I can't imagine how great Comic-Con could be for you.
I must have a blast. I won't lie to you. Because I also wrote a couple comics myself, but I never went to Comic Cons for them. I wrote an indie comic called Tower that I might be doing something with soon, which is very cool. And I did a couple little like one-offs for DC too. But I've only done a couple Comic Cons for Batwoman. So now that I'm going to be going for One Piece and Batwoman and maybe a Tower sort of prequel spinoff thing, it's going to be fun.
All right. Well, we're going to geek out a little bit. We're going to talk about One Piece, but
Okay.
you know, writing comic books is a whole different ball game because people think you get, miles of stuff. You get like maybe 4 sentences for a page. And
Yeah.
how tough is it for you? I mean, was it a learning process? Or are you like going, okay, I'm still learning?
Oh, no, absolutely. I think, before I got into screenwriting, I was writing music and my songs would be too wordy. And then I got better at consolidating. Then I got into screenwriting and it was too wordy. And I got into consolidating. Then I got into comic book writing and it was the same thing. I just want to say so much. And the trick of it is just saying all that you want to say and then just cutting the fat, trimming the fat, and figuring out how to get right to the point so people can get the themes and the messages immediately. And comic books are the final boss, in my opinion, because there's only so much you can say in a tiny panel, but it really did teach me a lot.
Now, obviously, you grew up with this. You grew up interested in comic books and everything else like that. I mean, do you remember what your favorite character growing up was?
Static Shock. He was my favorite superhero by far. Watching him on the WB really shaped me as a person because I always say that he taught me that you can be a black nerd and also cool. And I didn't know that until I saw him. Like, he was such a dork and didn't know how to talk to the girl that he likes. But then he would turn on the Static Shocks to turn on the outfit, turn on the powers, save the day. And he was so cool when he did it. So he is and has been and will forever be my favorite superhero.
I remember reading the original comic books before the Milestone books, and Static was the lightest of all of them. There were some rough books, and I remember people going, what is this about? And it reminded me of like The Wire. Those were the way the books were written back then. And then they put it out as, like a cartoon. I'm like, okay, this is fun. And, every once in a while they take that character and they make him an adult, 60 years in the future where he's on and it's so interesting to see that character still survive through, so many stages. So,
and we wanted an adaptation of it for so long. I think we were all the blurs have been asking and demanding Static Shock to come to the big screen for a while. But to your point, being it reminded you of The Wire, the first episode of the Static Shock WB animated series, he gets his powers because there is a police chopper that shoots a smoke bomb into the pier where there's a gang fight happening.
Yep.
And it blows up the toxin and gives everybody powers. And the fact that they were saying that in the very first episode of the show, oh my gosh, there are so many deep stories and themes to this series and to this character. Man, I love Static Shock, bro. I love it.
Now, I know we're going to talk about One Piece. We got some time to do that, but I'm going to do something for you. I'm going to give you something that you're probably going to go, would this work?
Okay.
I think with the clout you have right now, you could easily ask somebody from DC, hey, listen, I would love to write Static Shock, a 4-issue miniseries. I said, I grew up with this character. This character meant a lot to me. And I think you have enough pull right now that you could ask somebody and say, listen, I've been writing comic books. I've been doing this. I was in Batwoman. I've been this. I've been this. I would love to do this. I think it's an important character. I think it's important that it gets out there again. And I would love to be involved with anything like that. And just mention that to your agent. Just,
No, I am with you. I do think I heard that Static Shock is in development somewhere, which is really exciting. And I'll also say that many years ago, maybe in 2021, me and Warner Brothers Animation, we were very tight. We still are, just we haven't talked in a minute, but they were my homies over there. And they actually asked me to pitch them a Static Shock animated series. And I had a really, really sick concept. They never ended up making any Static Shock animated show, obviously. But yeah, man, I had a really dope show. So
I'm just saying, you could do a 4-issue miniseries. I mean, it's 88 pages.
Listen, I would love this. I would love it. And I'm going to, after this call, I'm going to see what I can do.
Put it out there, man. It's just a comic book, man. They'll put up with that. It's not like them having to do all the animation. They have artists, they have colorists, letterers. Having hope.
Good point.
Okay.
I would love that.
So 18 years old, you head to New York, you want to be an actor, the military thing. I spent 3 years in the military, realized it wasn't my thing either.
No way.
So I get it. I get when you think it's going to be your career and everything else. You do the ROTC thing and you go, you know what? I think I have too much of a character to go in this direction. So I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to try to be an actor.
That's right.
Is that a scary thing or is it like, I'm just doing this?
A mixture. I'm a big risk taker. I love diving off the diving board. I love jumping off the diving board. So whenever the opportunity to move to New York and live with my great aunt came to be, my great aunt who I did not know and later became her caretaker, I was like, let's do it. I've never been to New York. I don't know the first thing about New York. And I am so willing to hit the ground running and figure it out. And I had a blast. I had your very standard struggling actor story. I barely ate for the first 3 months. I ate only soup and crackers. And then I found my first job working at an ice cream parlor and a deli. And then I got into background work for 3 years and I was giving coupons on the side of the street. And, I was catering and I was a waiter. I did everything you can imagine. But because I didn't go to college, that was my college. I learned on set. I learned on the job. I was bold enough to go into an audition, do the audition, and then say, hey, do you have any notes? Before I leave, is there anything I can improve on? Because, what can I do to get better at this job? Because once I leave this room, I go home. I don't go back to class like some of these other actors. This is my class. And a lot of these casting directors and directors, a lot of them being students, were so willing to be like, oh, well, I think you could do this better, or I just had to figure it out on my own, and I loved it.
I get to talk to a ridiculous amount of actors, producers, everything, and I got to talk to Jerry Bruckheimer the other day, and that was a ridiculously cool thing, and I like that even when you're at that level, you understand your job. And for example, you probably have to wake up really to do 10 of these in a row, and people don't realize how important the job is. It's not like, oh, I'm on set and they say, hey, you got to do 20 interviews today. How do you get up for each one? You're going, okay, here's another one. Here's another one. Or is it just like a privilege?
It's a privilege, man. I hear actors that don't like to do press, and listen, to each their own. I get it. It can be draining. This is my dream. Before, when I first moved to New York, I'll never forget, the one thing that I would do every single day, all day, was watch interviews. That was, again, my college. I would watch to hear how this actor got to where they are. And the reason that I got so many stories and so much inspiration is because they were willing to sit down in front of someone, in front of a mic, on camera, and talk about their career. And it teaches so many more people than we realize. So doing this, man, I literally was on set of this project that I'm working on, and I rushed home to do these interviews. And to me, they're equally important. I love this movie that I'm shooting. I'm so happy that they were willing to move the schedule around so I could do these interviews. But I was I have to do these interviews. I don't know who's listening. I don't know how long it's going to exist, but I do know that someone out there may listen to it and feel inspired and feel heard and feel seen. And that's the point of what we do.
I love that, the actors come out, they do what they need to do. And I guess the question I'm going to ask, you're working on this comic book right now called The Tower. I assume you have an artist you're working with on it. Okay. I'm going to give you some more free advice. I've produced 16 graphic novels, 60 single issue books, and I've been in charge of all these, and it sucks being in charge.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But here's the deal. You go, okay, I'm going to do, is it 88 pages or is it a graphic novel?
It was 5 issues, 24 each, 22 each.
So you got about 110 pages. And always come out with it in single issue books because they're easier to sell. People will collect those. And then put it into the trade. After you get all 5, then trade it.
That's right.
But it's always a process. And when you think about it, you go, okay, 22, 22, 22, 22, and you got your 5 chapters, but it's so painful because you're just hoping it gets done. The artwork, the artist does the heavy lifting. Okay. You're the jockey. Dude. Okay. That's the best way to put it.
It's so true. I actually ended up having 2 artists for Tower. Chris Cross did the first 3.
He actually did my book Tainted.
And he also worked on Static Shock.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chris Cross did my first 3, and then I moved to an artist in South Africa named Loiso Mkhize. He is also just incredible. And I think Chris Cross also did the first cover. Loiso did covers 2 through 5, but then also did the art for 4 and 5. And the mixture of their 2 incredible artwork was just like mind blowing. So now I might do like a manga, like a prequel manga of the comic book. I'm in talks to figure out like if that's going to be a thing, and I'm feeling pretty good about it.
It's always about finishing the work. That's the hard part. And I worked with Chris Cross Williams for, it was supposed to be a 4-issue series. And I actually wrote the first Image didn't have any black female characters. So I wrote Ant with Mario Gully for about 3 or 4 issues. And I learned the hard thing about that was they are right. You could try to write for a character, but unless you can get really into that character, you don't know if they're doing it justice or not. And I think that's hard. And I think, when people talk about who should write this character, who shouldn't write this character, I think you can be deep, but you have to have a huge amount of empathy to write something outside of who you are.
I agree.
So
I agree. And it's not impossible.
No.
I think, nowadays there's also a lot more collaborating. Like I love co-writing. Even Tower's co-written by one of my best friends, Kelsey Barnhart. I think, I'm always open to other interpretations and other experiences. And, there's so many characters that I want to talk about and tell the stories of. Right now, I'm mostly writing a lot of Black characters just because that's my experience. So I'm able to really dive in there. But in the future, when I'm diving into other races as the leading faces of my projects, Tower has 2 other leading non-Black characters. But anyway, I always want to collab with people that know the story, that know the background, that know all that stuff. Because if it's not authentic, what's the point?
It's tough. It's when I read something that I wrote 20 years ago, I go, God, what I didn't know would fill the Grand Canyon, and wow, that character is awful or something like that. Now I'm going to ask a question because I think it's important because a lot of actors who aren't into comic books avoid them like the plague when they're doing a role. No, I'm not going to look into it. I'm going to take you don't realize this is who the character is. Yes, you can change it, but you should at least know the basis of who they are. When you're doing a character like Mr.5, do you suddenly go, hey, get me all the books. I need to see what's ever out there. How much of that stuff did you eat into?
1,000%, dude. I think the one reason that One Piece, the live action show, is so successful is because they're willing to say, here's the anime and the manga that you love on screen. I think what happens oftentimes is people take the IP, they take the anime or the manga, or they take the book and they turn it into this whole other thing that we didn't ask about. No. When I'm a huge fan of this, I just want more of it in a different light, and One Piece is like, okay, I know that you love the fun. I know that you love the silliness, but I also know that you love the actual dark, grounded, real human themes. I'm going to make sure that all of those things are felt and seen and heard in the live action, and none of it goes away. And as an actor in the show, I felt the same. Like, okay, you like Mr.5, let me go see why, so I can give you the guy that you know. I want to give you the guy that you love. And like, it's going to be my own interpretation of it, of course. It won't be an exact, one-to-one, because I'm an actor and I get to have my own version of things. But at the same time, I want you to be able to see him on camera and go, oh my gosh, that's Mr.5, And that's what the fans have been saying online, which has been so great. Before the show even comes out, they're like, wow, like it feels like Mr.5 was taken out of the manga and thrown on screen. And that's why they're so excited about the character, because that's the guy they've been waiting to see in this version of the story. So yeah, man, I watched every episode of the anime that Mr.5 is in multiple times. I worked on the voice to get close to him, close to the English dub of his character. But I also had some other inspirations of other actors, and I kind of like mixed the voice and played with it. So I didn't want it to sound too character-y, like, I'm trying to sound, but I did want it to feel like a supervillain. Like I had this idea that Daniel Lasker, who plays Mr. 9 in season 2, he said something about like there's always a bomb in his stomach. And I like that. Like there's like this guttural, like he's so angry all the time. What if there's just like something ready to blow at all times? And that inspired the voice a little bit too. So anyway, my long way of saying, yeah, I love making sure that the show and the manga that they love so much is respected when I play the character that they know.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you used to ask for notes after you did things. And my daughter is in college right now. She's getting her theater degree and everything else like that. And I take advantage of you guys all the time to get whatever advice I can get. I mean, you had practically zero training, maybe some drama classes in high school, and you go to New York, you go, I don't care. How do you fill in those voids? Is it always something I got to work on my craft no matter what? I've got to read. I've got to do these. What do you think the most important thing that guides you when you're getting into a character?
That's a great question. So the first few years of my career was a lot of everything I can do to grow myself as an actor, the better. So if it was as simple as watching interviews, I'll do that. Watching more movies, watching more TV. I would also do workshops and intensives and classes. I would pop in wherever I could. Me and my friends created a sketch comedy show that we perform all the time. So I was on stage. Like I was doing everything that I could, including being a background extra on set, so that I could be on set and learn everyone's jobs and see how things work, and then watch the actors do their jobs and see hearing the lines over and over again and being like, oh, that's why you're saying it like that. Absorbing. When it comes to my characters, the way that I prep, I try my best to. So my acting coach back in New York, Anthony Abeson, he used to always say that every scene is based on the past, which is true. Every time you're watching a scene, it's like, back on Sunday when you're always talking about something that happened. And even if you're talking about something that's about to happen, you have the prior knowledge that it's about to happen. So it's all from the past. So what I do before a scene is I take the scene, I look at all the things that I talk about that I'm referencing in the past. And honestly, it sounds really weird. I will improvise the past in my living room. I'll just be walking around talking to invisible people. So that way, when I'm doing the scene, you're seeing a memory in my eyes. I'm not just saying random words that don't mean anything to me. If I remember the time that I was in my living room doing that scene, that is now a real thing that happened to me. So that's one thing you can tell your daughter is like, make sure that it's lived in, that it's real to her.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. We got One Piece season 2. It's coming out this month. I'm so excited to see season 2. I love season 1. Also, if you're at Comic-Con this year, stop by my booth. It's 2101.
I will freaking be there.
All right.
I will be there. I can't wait to see you, man.
Hey, take care, my friend. Be well.